of course, so many small communities. You know, we've got a guest coming in, which I think you were instrumental in help bringing in this Wednesday, Ann Powell, who lives in Florence but is from Marion.
That's correct.
Who wanted to come in to talk about small towns throughout not only our viewing area but anywhere. The opportunity of living and growing up in a small town, leaving a small town but still being in love with a small town. That probably happens a lot in our viewing area.
It's fun to, let's say, talk about these small communities because every small community has a story to tell. Every small community has something they're very proud of. And it's fun to go into those communities, meet those people, and start talking to them. It really makes them feel proud when they can talk about events in their town that even happened a couple hundred years ago.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
They've got that and they're proud of it.
And what has WFXB Fox TV done to highlight some small communities recently?
We've started a project on WFXB called Fox Spotlight, and we right now have 3 communities on the air. We have highlights each month from Fairmont, Lumberton, and Bennettsville, and then within the next week and a half we will be starting Lake City and Red Springs.
Great.
And Fairmont, you know, when you go in there, you know that Fairmont exists on the map, but take a drive through that town, find out about the history. Like, it originally was called Ashpole.
Ashpole?
Ashpole.
Oh, come on.
Yes, Ashpole was named after the Ashpole Swamp. Then in the early 1900s, they changed the name to Union City. Then 7 years later, they changed it back to Ashpole. Then they finally decided on Fairmont.
Huh.
And Fairmont, you wouldn't realize it was a thriving community. It was the largest tobacco market on the border belt.
Really? No, I didn't know that.
It was big. They would have between the months of May through October, 5,000 to 6,000 people. I've seen pictures. It looks like, you know, Times Square in New York City, but on a smaller scale, just loaded with people.
That is exciting.
And so when you get into these small towns and know
this
about
must be thrilling. Now, is this because you grew up in what would be portrayed potentially as a small town, Pete, or did you grow up in a big city?
I think that part of it. I grew up in a small town in Montana, and I knew the history. And I think, like every small town, there's always a history in that. And then as today, as we progress, we become a little bit big ideas, but we forget about the small towns, the history. They don't, a lot of times, teach about history to children in school about these small towns, how they came about and so forth. And it's so much fun. And then when you start to talk to the people, they get so excited about telling the history in their town.
Oh yeah, absolutely, particularly utilizing broadcasting television.
You get the digital
where it's
pictures.
Sight, sound, motion, everything. You know, a voice, everything involved there. To be able to express a small community must be very, very special.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Pete. We've only got about 5 minutes, and I want to make sure folks get a real takeaway in thinking about your column. You give a 50-year, as you said, from not only TV, but motion pictures, what was happening in the world.
Highlights of the history of that time frame.
On the second half, when is this publication, I mean, when is your column published?
Every Thursday.
Okay, it comes out on Thursdays.
On Thursday.
That's great. That's great. And I think when Paul was with us last week, he highlighted there's a number of profiles that also come out.
Correct.
The business of the week, the citizen of the week, the public servant of the week, the veteran of the week, and I believe the nonprofit of the week, which I think he had a particular interest in. Also at Carolina Weekly, you can find, I believe, the best of Dixie Divas, Rhonda Rich's column. So there's 7 new pieces coming out every week. Your column, I'd have to say, is probably one of the longest columns I've ever seen, or anything. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Well, once I get writing it, then I can't quit.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean, I've been up to 2,500 words, and then I keep bringing it down.
Having to cut it back. And that must be hard, Pete, because there's so many things you want to bring up.
Saturdays is the day I usually sit on the column.
Right.
Really start writing it out, and it's Saturday morning from 9 o'clock until Saturday afternoon. Then I start whittling out, okay, what do I want to throw away? Then that's the hard time.
Yeah.
That's the time for me to get up, go out in the kitchen, get a soda pop, and then mull over which one I want to get rid of. But it's fun.
Letting secrets out here, Pete.
Yeah.
I like this. Yeah.
So it's fun to do that because then you can sit there. Then you get, when you get it done, you say, why did I throw that out? Or why did you get a little bit of remorse, and then you have to finally say, I got to let go. I got to let go.
That must be hard, Pete, because there are so many things you want to bring into it.
Right.
And from 50 years ago to present, I think there's sometimes where you'll go back further than 50 years, or you'll go forward, as you said,
Well,
maybe to...
you know, there's some events that I'll go back that I'll do research on, you know, even though it's Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton filming started in '62, that's 48 years ago.
Right,
Well,
49, right.
49 years ago.
Right.
And so you look at it, and there's some aspects that where you find out is an interesting, I think what was in this last column was Paramount Pictures hired a movie actor in 1927 who was going to be their version of Rudolph Valentino. And we probably all know him now. He was signed on this date in January 1927, and it was George Raft.
Oh, wow, yeah. Again,
Now-
I was born in 71, Pete. Don't pick on me here. Should I know who that is? Yeah.
Well, he played gangsters in many roles.
Okay, yeah.
But could you imagine him when you come to say, this was Paramount's choice to play Rudolph Valentino? I had to throw that in because anybody who would know who George Raft would start.
Think, how could it have been?
How could they would have thought at that time of putting this person in as the next Rudolph Valentino?
That's a hoot, Pete. Well, this must be fun for you, even if you weren't putting it into column form and sharing it with so many readers around the country. And I guess knowing you've got readers in Canada and throughout the world, if you weren't doing that, the fun of going back and just spending time, I believe you've got some TV guides and some old publications that help you put this together.
I probably have right now about 700 pieces of literature.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
700, Pete?
Yes.
That you use to put your column together?
Yes.
You're probably one of the most dedicated columnists in the country.
Probably a hoarder.
A hoarder as well. We may want to get you on TV for that role. I haven't been to your house to see that, but
So I have a lot of material.
yeah. Real quick, just to share with viewers as a little tease for Wednesday. Why should viewers come back and tune in for Ann Powell on Wednesday, Pete?
Why?
Yeah, why should they come in?
You're going to be surprised.
Yeah.
All I can say is you've got to watch Ann Powell. She's a hoot.
She's a hoot.
I mean, if she was charging, people would pay to see her.
Yeah, yeah, that is great. That's a great way to wrap up a time with you today. Thanks so much for being with us. Stay tuned to a little more TV Talk with Pete Sieler coming up next. Same thing with Pete Sieler's column, TV Talk. For so many of his dedicated, loyal readers, if they had to pay to get on CarolinaWeekly.com to read TV Talk, Carolina Weekly's publisher would be making a lot of money. And it's just that easy. It's free, 24/7. You can go online to CarolinaWeekly.com. Not only Pete's column, but Rhonda Rich's column, The Best of Dixie Divas, and those 5 tremendous profiles every week. Coming out on Thursdays, it's published on Thursdays, but every week, 50 years ago and to the present, we didn't get to highlight the second half of the column. Every single week, Pete highlights what's going on in TV today. Take the time to go online. We also ran out of time and weren't able to highlight Pete's tremendous service as chairman of the Building Bridges Committee for the Greater Florence Chamber of Commerce. If you want to learn more, give the Chamber a call over there in Florence or go online and check Pete Sieler out at CarolinaWeekly.com. Pete, thanks so much for being with us this morning. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.